Pickleball Innovators podcast, which shines a spotlight on the movers and shakers in the fast-growing pickleball club space. Today's guest is Chris White, founder and CEO of IPOP in Canada. In this episode, we head north to explore how the pickleball boom is taking shape in Canada and why the playbook looks very different. Chris shares how IPOP was built as a partnership-driven model, working alongside nonprofits and municipalities, not just competing for real estate. We dive into the challenges of limited court access, higher development costs, and evolving demand, along with what operators everywhere can learn from IPOP's focus on community-driven programming, inclusivity, and long-term infrastructure. Let's get into it.
I'm excited to talk to you because I think you're actually the first Canadian pickleball club that I've spoken with, and I'm very
Okay.
curious to hear about how the industry is evolving there. But you gave me a little bit of the backstory, but just give me more of the origin story of IPOP, the intention that you put into it, what you're excited about. Yeah, just give me the rundown.
Okay, so we're the inclusive place of pickleball. That's how we started up. That name was an acronym, and basically it was formed because up here in Canada, like when we're teaching people how to play in a lot of the public courts, the kind of stigma was always been don't pop the ball, right? Don't pop, popping's bad, blah, blah, blah. And I was teaching people, and they would be like, what, in particular, a couple older ladies looked at me and were like, I popped. And it was just like, and I've been trying to figure out a name because I knew eventually I was going to go down this path of trying to figure out how to open up a facility because I didn't want to, I wanted to solve the problem, which is that there's obviously overwhelming demand and there's not enough supply for courts in the city. But land is very expensive here, and it's also very challenging to get in space. And so when I started to partner and look down south, particularly Utah, and connect with Devin Egan and these kinds of other groups in Mastermind, it seemed really easy for them. Like I was going into Mastermind and guys in Denver were finding like 7 and 8 targets that had gone out of business, or there was a industrial area with 3 warehouses. That's not the case here. So our challenge is that pickleballers will only pay so much money, and obviously there's a bit of a different business reality. But what I realized really early on is that there were these large associations and organizations that fall under the umbrella of Pickleball Canada. And so Pickleball Canada, it's called PCO, and under PCO, all of these organizations have umbrellaed and sprouted up, and there's thousands of us across the country. And the biggest trouble they've had is that none of those groups can get access to buying, leasing, or organizing any kind of space privately because they're nonprofits. They don't have a business acumen. They're mostly retired. They don't want to take the risk, so they don't want to put any money up because it is an expensive proposition. They can't get insurance. So now they're looking at all these other opportunities. So the way we designed and thought about IPOP, or I particularly did at that time, is that I wanted it to be a business acumen and the business wing of the nonprofits. And so what we are, it makes us different from any other franchise, is that we are a partnership organization. So we are a for-profit that works with nonprofits, right?
Gotcha. Okay.
Yeah. So that's our difference. Like right now, we've got some municipal P3s, like public-private partnerships, where we've been invited by different cities around British Columbia that have said, hey, we've got land, but we don't have any money. And we're definitely not going to be able to, even if we did have money, get it and give it just to pickleball. Everybody would want some of that money. The solution we have to the pickleball problem that many municipalities have is that we bring dedicated pickleball money to build a dedicated pickleball space. Those conversations and those opportunities, we ended up opening a facility here in Burnaby with a mall. And that's a pretty common pathway for a lot of organizations, even in the States, is to partner with someone who's got some dead space. And we had that here. This was an old Safeway. It was dilapidated and decrepit. And because we knew the primary group, they actually were receptive to us. And we had a conversation around it that led to us taking the space over, investing in the CapEx. And then we became IPOP. So we actually had our first physical space. But the word had gotten out that we were a little bit different. We're not a franchise option, and that a lot of organizations have been reaching out to us. So we were approached by Pickleball Canada to help, because what had been happening, and do not take this wrong, but there were a lot of American franchises that were coming into the market and had already sold some franchises to people in areas, and they had already run into problems. And so
Yeah.
the Pickleball Canada organization was already going, okay, what's going on? We need to get ahead of this. And we don't have any information or resources to give to the Canadian Pickleball organization. So they came to me and they said, will you guys help? So we wrote the Strategic Facility Development Plan for Pickleball Canada. We partnered with them. We put it on their website. So we wrote the whole booklet. It's a 60, 70-page booklet, has a feasibility study, what's called a bridge doc, to a business plan. And at the end of that, at least you'll have answered the fundamental questions as an organization, as individual, which way to go, and is it even feasible in your community? Right.
Okay.
So that's led us to like all these crazy opportunities across Canada. If you look at Pickleball Canada, you'll see IPOP and that you can click on it. You can access the booklet. Now, that's not to say that we're the only option, but what we are is a resource and we give them everything that they need to know to make their own decision, which
Okay.
wasn't there before. And yeah, some people are kind of like, why would you do that? You should be not giving that away and blah, blah, blah. But you know what? It's a big world and we want to help people grow pickleball. That's the bottom line. You know what? And whatever you give away, you get back. Right.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
I love it. So, follow-up question. So, as an organization, you don't physically own the facilities then? Or you just
We are
partner with
going
people?
to, yeah, like our long-term goal is to be a pickleball REIT, a Canadian pickleball REIT, because my biggest problem is, and again, do not take this, is that you Americans, you guys in the States, and now China, we have a lot of Chinese players here, are starting to surpass our youth. And so
Yeah.
we're heading towards the Olympics. And what keeps me awake at night is that we don't have the infrastructure here. And so what we know as Canadians is that if we don't have the system for our youth, and like ice hockey is our biggest example, but we work really hard on making sure that we've got the kids really young on the ice and that they've got a
Yeah.
system to go through, but it's a community lift. And so that's been my biggest concern. So my reality is that my motivation is that I do not want to die and be like, I didn't try to do anything to get Canada on the podium with the game I love the most.
Yeah.
The other reason is because we can't access any kind of national funding unless pickleball is a recognized sport.
Okay. So you
Yeah.
guys are seeing a similar situation in Canada where there's a lot of demand. You have a lot of facility operators trying to meet that demand, but then they're running into roadblocks and there's a lot of retirees who maybe thought that opening a club would be easier than what it actually is.
In a weird sort of way, that's exactly in a nutshell. Now, what's changed since I began is that, so I'm ahead of the curve as far as British Columbia goes because there wasn't any clubs here, right? And there's been several opportunities that we've refused for whatever reason. And now there's people going into those spaces, which is completely fine. But what's changed is that the access to space has improved. Thank you to you know who down in you know where. Because of that situation, there's been a lot of layoffs and industrial space and a lot of uncertainty has created the opportunity for people to enter into the pickleball market and get cheaper square footage. But again, when I look at what's on the price of square foot in Utah and Salt Lake City or Orem, or even in California, compared to what we're paying, it's still double. So
Yeah.
we still have an economics challenge, but we've still got scarcity up here. And so while that exists, businesses will be profitable. In the East, it's just starting. Like Toronto and Eastern Canada is a little further ahead. And I can set you up with some really great guys if you want to do a little Canadian roundup or whatever, right? We do have a
It would be
national
amazing.
pickleball league called the CNPL. We're a part of that here. The Vancouver Western team plays here at IPOP as well. And we're also
Okay.
the training center for the Western Canadian pickleball team, right?
Awesome.
So as
Yeah,
far as a little tiny club that we've been able to punch above our weight in a lot of
for
ways.
sure. Yeah,
Yeah.
for sure.
I don't
Yeah.
know. I don't know why, but it's pretty funny. Like we're this little tiny court and we seem to get like opportunities. And that's pickleball, right? It's like
Yeah.
it's pretty cool.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. It seems like you've had a lot of great influence over the sports trajectory already in Canada.
I think that what we have to do is you've got to get involved and figure out how to, like, our pathway is unique. Like UPL, people will look at the Ultimate Pickleball League and go, oh, I'm buying a team and how do I monetize it? But I can clearly see that we're going to go, because I'm from a soccer background, that we're going to monetize it through the youth. Here's what the beautiful thing is about pickleball. So in a soccer environment or an ice hockey environment, you've got parents that are getting up at an ungodly hour, 4:30 a.m. to get their kids to practice, whether that's soccer or hockey. And then they stand there drinking Tim Hortons coffee because that's our favorite coffee. And then they stand there talking and standing beside the ice when they should be exercising. So the beautiful thing about pickleball at IPOP is that while those kids are in the high performance academy, the parents will be playing pickleball.
Yeah,
So that
I
changes
love that.
everything as far as an inclusion and inclusivity perspective. But B is you've now got the parents and kids playing, actually engaged in the sport, right? So that's really cool and intriguing for me. And that's my goal, is to keep growing our facilities as we open them with that kind of infrastructure, right? Where every facility will have a UPL team that will be playing against American competition and other cities within British Columbia while we're growing Canadian talent.
Yeah, I love it. Tell me more about some of the ways that you're engaging the pickleball community within the facilities. Are there other unique programs or things that
Oh
you're
my
just really
God.
proud of?
So we're, because we're inclusive, and that's the most important name. That is the most important word, is the inclusive. It's not pickleball. Everyone says, oh, it's pickle. No, it's not. It's inclusive. We are so dialed in on that. So whether it's duper, and we're doing open plays to accommodate that more competitive nature, we also at the same time are running open plays where it's unrestricted.
Okay.
So that's how we include everybody in from just a pickleball perspective. But then we've got a real cultural element here. We've got an LGBTQ group that plays here on Sunday nights and is sold out for months, right? And that's a league, right?
Yeah.
We've got ethnic groups that come in here and English isn't their first language, but what we do is provide them with someone who speaks English here. And so they're able to bridge that gap and also learn rules. We have some now coaches that are coming through. One of the best things we do is that we are involved with an organization called BC Lung, which is a lung organization. A lot of people have asthma, there's poor air quality, they've got COPD, they've got lung cancer, like my dad. So they've got all these kinds of issues and problems. And the problem is when they get to a certain stage of wellness, in the next phase, the usual diagnosis is they get a prescription to go to the gym or to continue their rehabilitation in solitude on a machine to run or whatever. And so our argument was, we think that we could actually do better if we've got those people into pickleball. So we became partners with this group. We raised money with them to support a Better Breathers group. So we have a group now that comes in on Tuesdays, and it's grown and grown. And these people all have asthma, or they've got COPD, they've got lung infractions. And we also do a scientific study, a pilot study for research to actually test lung capacity and monitor people as they're going through. So now we've got some data to prove it. The goal is we want a doctor in Canada or the United States to be able to prescribe pickleball instead of the gym, right? So it's go do pickleball. You're going to get well socially, mentally, and physically by going to play pickleball. We also were able to access a government grant because of that association that gave us the ability to put HEPA filters in. So we're also the cleanest air facility in British Columbia as well. So when the air quality is really bad, we're able to actually show on our little Google map that the air quality outside is 72 or 74 parts per million, but on the inside, it's 48. So come in, your air's clean. If you have any lung infractions or you don't want to be outside on that day, because we have smoke here from forest fires, right? And the air quality over the years has gotten worse and worse in the summer. And we've mitigated that with that kind of strategy that every facility we have will have HEPA filters.
I love that.
Yeah.
Yeah. And what you were saying about the social nature of pickleball, I think there's such a huge opportunity here for pickleball to really make an impact on the health of communities because, like you said, just encouraging people to go work out on a treadmill by themselves is not going to move the needle.
No,
You need people to be engaging and socializing and competing together for it to be sticky.
you are totally right. You are totally right.
All right, cool. You have such a macro level view. Anything else that you feel would be interesting for our audience of pickleball club operators here in the US?
Why we watch the US so closely is we make an effort to belong to many organizations, right? Whether I'm speaking to Dill Dinkers, whether I'm talking to Devin, or whether I'm talking to Ted Angelino, or I'm talking to IAPPF. We go to all these things as best we can to chat and engage. But what interests me now and concerns me a little bit is the levels of saturation. Because I can sense and I can feel, and people come up here from the States because we're part of Passport, and they're like, my God, this place is crazy busy. Because we're busy at 6 a.m. in the morning, 100%. And this has been, I think we're at 120 odd days, and we should be. It's our season, right?
Yeah.
But we're usually running at 85 to 90% in the summer as well, when it's the low season. For me, when I hear that there are empty places or places that are struggling, I'm always intrigued. Why? Is that just because there's too many? Or is it because people have jumped in and opened up a box and said, if we build it, Field of Dreams, they're going to come, which is not the case. You've got to be involved in the community, which is why we partner with those groups rather than try to parachute in and tell everybody the way we think it should be, right?
Yeah, I think it really just depends on the market, but I think programming is huge. And it sounds like one of the keys to your success is that you guys are intentionally programming for specific aspects of your community. And there definitely are some operators who have not understood the importance of that. They think that they can just offer court access and be successful. And in some communities, that is okay, but in others, it does require a lot more attention than just simply opening.
Totally. Having all said that, the growth of pickleball here has been phenomenal, and I think that we're going to continue to do real well. Our focus at IPOP is to make sure that we've got kids on the podium. We've now got some younger local players that actually got the furthest they've ever been in the PPA. They got to the round of 16 and then got knocked out, but we were all following them and cheering them on because they actually did really well at the Texas Open, right? They got quite far along. So we are definitely making some inroads. We're definitely getting there, right?
Yeah, awesome.